All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're just going to give everyone maybe like a minute or so to kind of get logged in, get situated, and then we'll get started. All right. So let's get started. Welcome again, everyone, to another edition of a new series in our Jam sessions that will focus on interactive content. In today's session, we'll be talking about how you can turn your static content into interactive content. So my name is Laura Pound. I'm the supervisor of global customer experience here at Rock Content, and I'll be moderating today's session. If this is your first Jam session with us, welcome. We're really excited to have you here. Our content marketing jam sessions are a brand new mix of presentations, interviews, and webinars. They're hosted by us at Rock Content, and we feature top marketing experts and innovators. While each session covers unique topics and different voices, they all have one common theme, which is to provide you, our audience, with advice, trends, best practices on how to master successful premium content experiences for your business. So really excited to introduce today's host, Stephanie Mansueto, who is Rock Content's head of content. At Rock Content, Stephanie leads our content team, which is a role that she stepped into this summer. Before that, she oversaw the Rock Content creative services team and worked with our customers to develop really awesome interactive content strategies. So before I pass it over to Stephanie, I am just going to go through a few housekeeping items here. So please feel free to share your questions with us in the chat box as we walk through the presentation today. I might answer a few of them during the webinar, but I'm going to save a lot of them for later as well, too. We'll be sending out a follow-up email with the full presentation as well as a link to the recording after the webinar as well. And I also invite everyone to connect with us on our social channels. Last thing before I hand it off to Stephanie, I just want to give everyone a quick overview of Rock in case you're not familiar with us, just kind of what's going on with our organization and everything like that. So Rock Content was founded in 2013, and as of today provides over 2,000 brands, marketers, and agencies with premium content experiences, creative services, and professional training. So you may have heard the news that Scribble Live, Visually, and Ion Interactives joined the Rock Content family last year in late 2019. And as of today, Rock employs over 500 people globally, and we maintain a talent network of over 80,000 creative professionals. So I will stop talking for now, and without further ado, hand it over to Stephanie. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Laura. All right, so thank you guys for coming today. Thank you for diving into interactive content with me and Laura. If you were on our webinar 2 weeks ago, what we covered, our very first session in this interactive content series is we aim to set the definition of what interactive content is. When we started the webinar, what I said was that interactive content is a conversation that happens digitally, right? And we went into examples, we talked about different types of interactive content. We talked about, who uses interactive content and why it's valuable. And when we finished up the webinar, we tried to set the expectation of what interactive content truly is, like a real absolute definition. Because in that webinar, I said that I had asked, my network and I had asked, people online, like, what do you define interactive content is? And the definition was all over the place. And so we were really trying to set an expectation so that if you were to invest in an interactive content strategy, what does that actually mean? And so this is the definition that we had, that interactive content is a form of content strategy. Like any other content you create, it is a content strategy and it's a part of a content strategy. But ultimately what interactive content does is it enables marketers to create a digital dialogue between a visitor to their content and their marketing automation platform. And the reason that it was so important for me to set this definition is because I can't tell you how often I get a piece of content from someone who says, well, I'm already creating interactive content. And then I look at it and it's just a piece of content with animations. Animations do not provide data. Animations do not provide learnings. You're not going to walk away from that interactive experience knowing what motivated your user, what their pain points are. And you're not going to have anything to provide your marketing automation platform other than this user looked at our content. And so to me, that's not interactive content. That's just beautiful content. And so there's a huge difference. And so we really wanted to hopefully put that into everyone's heads of interactive content provides a digital conversation, a digital dialogue between the content and your marketing automation platform so that you can use the engagements that your user has with your interactive content to inform your marketing campaigns, both sending personalized content, dynamic content, or also just knowing what to send that specific user in the future based on how they engaged with your content. And then I asked you guys for something. I said, in so few words, give me your tired, your ugly, your old, and outdated static content, and I will give you ideas on how to make them interactive. And you guys delivered. Thank you. You guys submitted content to us. Woohoo! We're very happy that you guys were interested and engaged with us and were willing to share your content with us because it really gave us a lot of great content to show. I can spend all day long talking about the content that Rock Content creates, but you know what? I'm too close to that content. It's too intimate. It's too intimate of a relationship. I was part of the conversation from the very beginning with most of the content that we create at Rock. And so it was so much more refreshing and challenging in a lot of ways to look at content that you guys created, not content that I created. So I'm really happy to share that you guys did submit, and I've got some really great content to share. So before we get started with going into those examples, let's talk about why repurposing of content has my vote. Why would I say to you, bring me the content that's tired, that's old, that's ugly, that's outdated. Bring me that content instead of saying, well, what do you want to do? Let's make something new. There's a lot of reasons that I think repurposing content is a great place for someone to start. We're always going to have new content on the horizon, right? We're always going to have a goal to create new content. But we absolutely should be looking at our content that exists. And here's why. We can easily create content campaigns that move users through the buyer journey using content we already have. We get more mileage from our evergreen content. Content takes a lot of time, between researching and getting writers, getting designers, making sure that it's high quality content. That takes a lot of time and sometimes a lot of money, and not getting as much out of it, as much mileage out of it as we possibly can is not a good investment. And then also scalability. So we all know that creating content is important, and we all know that we should be creating high quality content, and we all know that we should be creating high quality content consistently, right? That is a lot of work. That's hard to do. I can pump out meh content pretty regularly, but that's not going to move the needle with my business. It needs to be high quality and consistent. And the best way for me to have the scalability to achieve that is to look to the content I've already created. And then also extending the longevity of a content's life cycle. More than likely, we're going to launch a piece of content and it could very well become outdated. It could have some copy in it that doesn't really work right now, and we might want to have to go back and repurpose that or change it around. And by going to the content that exists, we extend its life. We can update it and reuse it without having to recreate. And then also the opportunity to cross promote content. Because if you've ever tried to promote a white paper on social, you know that it's not going to perform as well as like a quiz might or something that's a little bit lighter. And so if we're able to take these content pieces and tweak them around and then test it out on our different audiences, we're going to get that opportunity to cross promote our content into the audience that makes sense for that type of content. This little piece over here on the right-hand side is actually a screenshot of one of the first times that I repurposed a piece of content at Ion. It was this 42-page ebook on, it's called the Interactive Content Toolkit. And this is how I went through it and identified ways to repurpose it. I went through on my iPad, I crossed out words, I circled things that made sense, and then I handed it to the marketing team and I'm like, I think we can make an assessment. And we did. So let's talk about the type of content that can be repurposed. And we're going to start today with blogs. And we're starting with blogs for a very good reason. Blogs are the most common form of static content. We all, at some point or another, have created a blog, right? Like, I mean, admit you've created a personal blog. We've done it all. We all have. And it's no wonder why we haven't, right? 77% of internet users will read a blog. Yes, sometimes they're reading blogs that are, recipe blogs, and sometimes they're reading fashion blogs, but we're all reading blogs, right? And businesses that are creating blogs see 126% higher lead growth than non-blogging businesses. So if I meet a customer and they tell me that they have not created any blogs yet, I'm really surprised, because I feel like this is something that most of us are at least doing. So when I have a customer that signs on and comes and works with us at Rock and wants to create interactive content, one of the first things I say is, let's go and look at your blog. What's on your blog? What kind of content do you have there? What's performing, high? Like, what is getting you the most engagement? What is the one that you think is the subject matter experts writing? Like, what article did that person do? And so I'm really happy. I was really, really, really hoping that someone would submit a blog post when I asked for submissions a couple of weeks ago, and they did. Actually, it was one of the first submissions that I received, and it is a perfect blog for what I was looking to do. This blog post was submitted by Nick Rogers and Tom Brewer from Gordon. Really, really happy that you guys submitted this. Thank you. And when I sent them an email asking them, what do you guys, why are you thinking about, turning this blog into an interactive experience? And they said, what excites us about creating content with more interactive elements is the idea of moving past the words on the page into a visual stimuli that will stick in a reader's mind longer. And images and faces and sounds leave a greater impression on audience members than 800 words ever can. And that is 100% true. One of the things that we have found in our research and in the interactive content that we have created is people scan, right? People are scanning to find the key points. They want to see, give me the meat, let me know what's going on. And will always help users retain information much longer and much better than static content and words. And so I was really excited when Nick sent that over, because I was like, yeah, you are 100% right, sir. And Gordon's software. So I did a little bit of research when I was, trying to find the recommendations. The software helps answer very complex questions. This article that they sent over to me is aiming to educate people on the financial impact of relocating your campus or facility. So if you were to say, I want to move my corporate offices from where they are today to another city, you're going to need to know how much that's going to cost. And depending on where you are, there's a lot of cost factors that are going to need to be taken into consideration. So for example, if you are located, or if you're looking to move to, my area, you want to move to Miami, let's say, lumber is going to cost more because we don't have lumber here. We have palm trees, and I don't think anyone's building anything out of a palm tree. But the actual labor cost might be expensive because we have a high cost of living here. So if you were to move somewhere else, like any of the Duluths, it might be a little bit less for labor costs, but there will be other factors that are going to need to be taken into consideration. And their software actually helps make that provide a more accurate estimate. So there were a couple of points within this blog that I thought were really relevant, and I kind of circled them here. This cost about lumber, I already referenced it, but obviously that stuck with me a lot. Like, I never would have thought that, I would never have thought about that. It's just not something that I will probably ever do. Build a new facility somewhere. So that really stuck with me. And then this other point here, where moving into larger cities and having to the cost associated with that too. Like, these things were really, really interesting to me. And I just really thought that that was something that would need to be, covered in an interactive experience. So we're going to be targeting with this content facility managers and estimators. So people who would be handling the costs of relocating, and then the people who are going to be providing the estimates. So here are my suggestions. The first one is, I really think that this blog could easily be an interactive infographic. And one of the things that I think would be really, really cool and really valuable is how do we add a personalization element? See, the thing with this software is we don't want to give away too much up front, right? Because you have to pay in order to play. You have to pay in order to get this information. And we don't want to tell people the actual estimated costs, but maybe we can, pique their interest a little bit. And so I think it would be really interesting if we could have a segmentation path on an infographic that asks users, what region of the country are you interested in relocating to? Not what city. So are you interested in moving to the East Coast? Are you interested in moving to the Midwest? Are you interested in relocating to the Pacific Coast? And then we can show averages, right? So the average cost of a campus of X size is going to cost this much in ... And we can have, animations, and we can have click to reveal tiles. And these are things that are just going to kind of pique users' interest. And the whole time kind of dangling that carrot of, request a demo, get more information about this software, but just kind of getting them a little interested by giving them not the full, information, but just a little taste of it. What do you think about the interactive infographic idea, Laura?
I love it. I mean, I love interactive infographics in general. I think they entice people to explore your content more than probably static content does. And it's also more of like a guided storytelling experience for me. Like, I think you can also like play with it so that you can even provide more information in like a fun way where it's not like requiring people to kind of read like a whole paragraph. It like kind of
and one of the things that we see a lot in our
awesome.
interactive infographics that would be really great for this specific piece of content are test your knowledge quiz questions, right? And I actually have an example in a couple of slides about this, of like testing users' knowledge on estimates and on how much things are going to cost, because we all like knowing that we're smart. So this here, I'm just making that reference of, ideally in an interactive infographic for this specific audience, I think it would be really valuable to personalize the infographic based on the city or region that they are most interested in, giving them a little taste of, what the costs might be, and just really getting them their interest piqued. This example, which we'll link you guys to, is really complex, but a very cool personalized experience based on region that I thought you guys should see. So this is the example that I was saying was a test your knowledge. So quizzes are generally a little bit more lighter and usually kind of top of funnel. And even though this audience I think is highly technical and very niche and knowledgeable, I still think that everyone wants to feel validated in their knowledge, right? So I consider myself a pretty knowledgeable interactive content strategist. But if somebody launched a, how, test your interactive content knowledge quiz, you damn sure I'm going to take it. And I'm going to take it because why? I want to be validated. I want to know that I actually, as knowledgeable on interactive content as I think I am. It's an ego thing. We all have it, right? But that means that what I would end up doing is answering questions about, what I do know, maybe finding out things that I don't know, and providing data to the company that created that quiz. And so I think that would be something that would be really interesting here too, is testing users' knowledge on average costs. How much does lumber cost in Austin, Texas? And we're not going to have to get really super specific here. We can keep it pretty general, but getting an understanding of what these users do and do not know will help us send targeted content to them in the future. And then one of the pieces of content that I thought would be really, really cool for this audience that I'm not 100% sure if it exists. I didn't see it on the Gordon site, but an interactive ebook that shows the competitive advantage of using a software like this versus doing it in the longer form, less accurate way. We here, we are a SaaS company too. We have products, and our products give our customers a competitive advantage. And so we find that those type of assets are really, really successful. What do you think of those two, Laura? The quiz especially, because I know we both like a quiz.
I know. I was just going to say, like, even when I have no business taking a quiz, like I'll take a quiz. Like if the quiz was like, how well do you know the construction industry? Like I don't know anything about construction, but I'll take the quiz. So I love quizzes. Like they make it so personal. Like it's a really fun way to get people engaged with your content. And I love ebooks too. I feel like that's like a tangible thing that someone can like take away from an experience that they've had with your brand. And it's a really great way to kind of like move them further down the buyer's journey, closer to like that purchase moment too. So I'm loving all of it so far.
Yes, I would love to know what my knowledge is on constructions too, because I know it's probably nothing, but it would be really great to say that it was better than I assume. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the cool thing about interactive ebooks is that we can also gate part of them, right? So like if we have an ebook that's interactive, well actually if we have a static ebook, we only have one option. Put it behind a landing page. If it's an interactive ebook, we can actually test the user's interest in where they actually going to want to convert by doing A/B tests to like, let's gate everything after chapter 1, or let's gate everything after chapter 2 and see what ends up resonating. But it's a really great way to like get users bought in, like give them a little bit for free, and then get them to go ahead and convert. So here is my proposed user journey for this piece of content. I definitely think that the blog post that was created is really, really great in that early stage. But what I think would be a really interesting strategy is to add a banner to send users to a quiz. So how accurate are your estimates, right? Well, how accurate are my estimates? And then take them through this quiz where you're asking them, what do you guys know about costs of building out an infrastructure, or building out an infrastructure, building out a campus, or a facility in a new city, and just ask them these little questions to get a sense of what do they know and what do they not know, and how can I help them be better. And then when I was doing some research on the Gordon site, I came across this. Well, actually, I came across a ton of books that they actually had. The topics look really great. They look like they're updated. I mean, this is the 78th annual edition. I mean, that's pretty impressive. This is a great way to get exposure to these books. So I would actually show these books that are relevant to the user's knowledge. So if a user takes this quiz and we find out that they are not very knowledgeable on estimates and their estimates are probably not accurate, I would recommend, like, here are 2 to 3 books that we think are going to help you improve. And that's going to get more engagement for Gordon. That's going to get, conversions and purchase orders, and hopefully, demos of the platform or the service or the software. Or you could always make that ebook interactive. That's always an option, right? So I have this assumption in my head, though, that ebook is pretty big. So I wouldn't recommend making the whole thing interactive. But if you guys were, thinking about how to get some attention to this ebook, you can still give a little bit away for free and ultimately have that conversion of making that purchase for that ebook. So here's some tips to create interactive content from blogs. I always scan the blog for questions that you ask the reader. Most blogs are going to present a question for the user to think about, right? Like, how often are you, providing inaccurate estimates that you have to either, update or ask for more money, or you go over scope on a project because you didn't have the right software to help you accurately estimate. You wouldn't word it like that, but you know what I mean? So we have these questions throughout blog posts quite often, and those can be repurposed and turned into assessment questions, sections in an infographic. We can expand on that in a chapter of an ebook. So try and find those questions that you ask the user, things you're trying to get the user to think about, and try and find ways to repurpose that. Or find the challenge that the blog is aiming to solve. How-to blogs and blogs that gives tips and tricks are usually trying to help the reader solve a challenge, and look for ways to expand on that in something that's a little bit more engaging. And I think that this is something that's really important to note. Just because the content is not exciting or is highly technical doesn't mean it can't be engaging and fun. This blog article that was shared with us is it's kind of, it's a very niche audience. It's not something that if I would have landed on it on a normal day, it wouldn't be relevant to me because that's not the industry that I work in, and I would probably have scanned it and bounced from the page. But that doesn't mean that it couldn't be turned into something that's fun for that audience. And I really think that test your knowledge quiz would be really valuable for those readers. So I just want to say, thank you to Nick and Tom for your submission. It was a really great one. It was a really great one for a lot of reasons. It's very much in line with the type of content that our customers come to us sometimes, and they're like, we can't turn this into an interactive experience. And so when I aim to request content from our attendees at the last webinar, this is actually the type of content that I was hoping that I would get. Something that was really challenging and really hard to look at and be able to identify interactive content opportunities. So if you guys, want to learn more about Gordon, definitely check out their blog or their LinkedIn. Look and see what their software is doing. It looks like it's doing some really amazing things. And again, thank you guys so much for contributing. All right, let's talk about ebooks. So this ebook was submitted by Emily Amos from Uplift Content. And Emily said that she's really excited to learn how to make our content more interactive and engaging. There's so much content out there that anything you do to make it more engaging and interactive is a win in my books. And it's a win in mine too. And she's right, there really is. It kind of goes back to what Nick and Tom said. Like, there's so much content out there. How can we stand out if we're just creating static, the same content that everybody else is creating? And so 100%, I'm on board with Emily on that too. So when I think about ebooks, I think about, the fact that yes, blogs are the most popular. Everybody's creating blogs. But we all have provided our email in exchange for an ebook or white paper, right? Like even if we didn't end up actually reading it, we're all guilty. Guilty is charged. I have downloaded ebooks and then they sat on my inbox or sat on my desktop until I eventually dragged them to the trash because, I didn't have the time, but we've all given away our email in exchange for an ebook. And that can put us into a nurture campaign, into an email drip campaign where we can actually get more targeted stuff and things that could be relevant to us. So I think that, repurposing ebooks is 100% a good idea. And they're actually the most common asset that I'm asked to repurpose here at Rock. A lot of our customers come to us with an ebook and they want to find ways to get more life out of them. And why wouldn't they? If you look at this ebook that Emily shared with us, it's really, really long and it's got a lot of content in it. And I am 100% sure that this was a huge investment from Uplift to create this ebook, both in time and probably cost for design and writing. So 100%, if you can get any more life out of it, you 100% should try. So this ebook is aiming to teach marketers how to create a killer B2B SaaS case study. So guess who is a B2B marketer at a SaaS company? We are. So you can imagine that when we saw this ebook, we were like, yes, this is actually something that we could use help with, right? So we have customers that use our platform and we're a B2B marketing company. So I 100% found value in this ebook as soon as she sent it over. And why wouldn't I? This ebook is full of valuable information. You can see here that it's 41 pages long and it has 7 challenges. So it's presenting 7 challenges that marketers like Laura and I are, and what we face when we're trying to create our B2B SaaS case or B2B case studies. There's challenges, and the 7 challenges that marketers face when developing these case studies, every single one that I read, I was like, yes, I have definitely experienced that. So 100% amazing ebook. Each challenge has 3 or more pages, and each challenge has tips, best practices, and tactical steps to take. So, Laura, when you're looking at this, aren't you like, yeah, I need this?
I was just about to go off mute and say, Emily, thank you for sending this to us, because I do a lot of customer advocacy stuff, and this is like actually a problem that I face in my day-to-day life. So I actually will be going and reading this afterwards for sure.
Yeah. And not every case study goes as in depth as this one did, right? And Emily shared with me the landing page where this is gated, and you know what? I'm sorry, but it 100% should be, because it has so much in that ebook. How when you've downloaded an ebook and you're like, wait a second, this is just a PDF version of what I just saw. This is not the risk of giving your email for it. You did not get a good reward. That is not the case here. The risk of giving my email is worth the reward of this ebook. It's just really good. All right, we don't need to keep on going on about how good it is. We've already told you it's good. So what do I suggest for creating an interactive experience from this ebook? The most obvious one is creating an interactive ebook. I would definitely recommend if you were to do an interactive ebook of your static asset, to gate everything after the introduction. What this means, though, is if you did do the interactive version of your ebook, is that we would have to figure out what the next what the CTA would be, right? Because we wouldn't want to have the CTA to be a download a static version of the ebook, especially if you give everything away in the interactive. Our next recommendation should be maybe to move users to learn more about your services, or maybe to move someone to a calculator to learn, how much would it cost for me to create a B2B case study. But that's definitely a really obvious option. When you create an interactive ebook, you have this opportunity to add quiz questions or tabbed content or reveal tiles or things like that to keep users engaged. One thing that I saw in one of the tips in the ebook was this section here where it's these tips to keep in mind when you're creating an ebook. That's a great way to get users to assess their quiz or their case study strategies. So you could ask users, how many words are in your case studies? And they could say, let's say 200 or 500 or 2000. And if they say 200 or 5000, you can say, our recommendation is that you aim for 500 to 1500. But then you guys collect data, right? Uplift collects data about this user, and now they know, okay, this user is not following best practices. Let's keep on trying to educate them on how to improve their case studies. Another really, really common thing that we see, and we see a lot of success with, is replacing that traditional landing page with an interactive infographic that actually talks a little bit about what's in the static ebook, but dangles that carrot again of like this call to action to download the full ebook. And there's so many things in this ebook that I think could be turned into interactive components, like these four, little starter kit things right here. That could be a reveal tile. That could be something where a user hovers over the little icon for icebreakers, and then you show them the copy. And that's data collection, right? You collect data when they hover over it. Really, really love that. What do you think of an ebook, Laura?
I love ebooks already. I'm the kind of person who will always give my email for that, and then I get a lot of email marketing after that, but it's worth it. I think gating content in an ebook is a really good idea because you're almost dangling the value in front of the person.
Mm-hmm.
So you're providing some information to kind of give them a taste of the experience right away, but it's going to make them more likely to fill out that form or do whatever you want them to do if you show them a little bit of what it is first. And then you should absolutely protect some of that content because it's valuable to your audience.
Yeah.
I think it's a really great way to kind of create an appetite, and same goes for the landing page, with kind of giving them a taste of exactly what they're going to get into when they start to read the full picture of what the content is.
I think you're going to love the next one even more. Yes. So one of the things that I thought would be incredibly valuable is, and especially for a company like Uplift Content, is creating a maturity assessment on your current case study process. This is one of those assessments that Laura and I would take, and we'd be like, we're going to be immature, because you would ask users these questions and to have them self-assess their current case study process against those tips in that ebook. And I think that would be incredibly valuable. You could easily do this because the ebook has 7 questions. I would take one question the ebook has 7 challenges. I would create 7 questions, 1 question from each challenge. So for example, question number 1, this is a tip that I found in the first challenge, that the best time to talk to a customer about a case study is after the project is completed and the customer has been able to see some results. You don't want to ask them right when you kick the project off, like, hey, by the way, when this project is over, can we do a case study? I mean, you don't know what the success of this project is going to be. It could actually end up being a total mess. And so you don't want to commit to that case study. And so I would take this tip and I would rework that into a question that says, at what stage do you ask a customer to participate in a case study? And then give them a couple of choices of, we ask when it's in the contract, right? It's in the RF, it's in the request for when they request a proposal, we put it in our quote, or, we kick it off in the middle of the project right before we launch, or we ask the customer, a month after the project has been live. And then this kind of can help Uplift determine the maturity of the user, right? Like, okay, this user is actually saying that they ask for it during the scoping of the project process. Maybe they give it to them as an incentive, or maybe, it's just part of their contract. That's not, they're not setting themselves up for success. So we want to maybe educate them on the importance of requesting that case study at the very end instead.
I have a question for you, Stephanie.
Okay.
So I love this. Obviously, we love assessments. I won't get into how much I love them again, but I do. So obviously assessments get you to kind of personalize the experience for your audience, but it sounds like you can also use it to understand who you're talking to even better. So how many clients have you seen who have used this in place of marketing qualified leads or form submissions? How many people use this as a focus group?
Yeah, so it's actually quite common. We're actually going to talk a little bit about that, converting it from MQL to SQL based on the assessment. But we've actually seen a lot of our customers use assessments in replacement of a discovery phase. So the questions that you would ask when you're talking to a prospect, right? When you're trying to learn what their challenges are, when you're trying to learn, what's going to motivate them, why are they even interested in our product now? An assessment is a really great way to almost have that conversation before anyone ever talks to sales. And if you're using a really good interactive content platform and with a companion of your marketing automation platform, all of those answers can be pushed to your marketing automation platform and then elegantly provided to your sales rep, so your sales rep can get on that first call but already be prepared. So
Cool.
quite often, actually, and it's smart because the goal here that with these recommendations that I'm providing to Uplift are not necessarily to just say, hey, let's make something really sexy. No, let's find out about who would actually be reading this ebook and what is their challenge and what is their motivation and how can we help them get better content in the future, because Uplift is a content company, right? So they're creating content. You're going to be creating really good content that could probably serve that challenge. And this is a good way to find out, who is this person? What can I send them to get them more interested in Uplift? And what can I send them that's going to make them realize that they need my services and I'm the solution to their problem? Then I would recommend that we gate the results. Don't give away the results for free. You make them tell you who they are in order to get their maturity level, right? And so we would gate the results and then we would share tips from the ebook and then we would have a call to action to download that ebook. And so what I'm seeing this as is if a user completes the form to see their maturity results, that's a marketing qualified lead. If a user clicks to download the static ebook after they've gotten their results, that's a sales qualified lead. That's someone who is okay, yeah, you're right. I need help. I need to read this ebook in order to learn more. To me, that's someone that you should send to your sales team and say, hey, get on the phone with this person. They absolutely need some of our help. And this is what they told me in the assessment. So these are their challenges. Make sure that you're prepared to talk about it. So my proposed user journey for this one is the ebook is at the end. So we start off with an infographic that would be, 3 tips to improve your B2B case study process. 3 simple tips. We use graphics. We, make the experience, look like the ebook as close as we can. This is my quick design skills. Obviously, not 100% looking like Uplift, but I still like that waving running guy. But get their interest peaked, and then have this call to action for them to next move on to an assessment where you ask them, how mature is your case study process, and ask them questions about what they're doing today in order to give them a result of what they need to improve. And then we'll go ahead and we'll get them to push towards getting that static ebook to further educate themselves. So some tips for creating interactive content from ebooks: scan ebooks for design elements that are meant to draw your attention. I can't tell you enough. If I'm looking at a static ebook, there is a reason that certain things are in specific design elements, right? Because that was something that the content strategist said, when this person is scanning our ebook or reading our ebook, they can't miss this. And so we need to make sure that this is called out and, this is called out and looks beautiful. So those are the things I look for, because if that's something that the content strategist thought needed to be designed special, I want to make sure that we find a way to repurpose that into an interactive. Bullet points and key takeaways and things like that can almost always be turned into quiz questions, test users' knowledge questions, or did you know type questions. And then Identify opportunities to repurpose challenges faced or best practices into those assessment questions as well. We saw that a lot throughout this ebook, and that's definitely something that could be done. So thank you, Emily. Again, we loved this ebook, and we hope to see you make interactive content to support it, because I definitely think that it has potential to be something really amazing. So for you guys to learn more about Uplift Content, they create SaaS content. It looks like a lot of really amazing services. I definitely recommend looking at their site, and then you can connect with Emily on LinkedIn as well. All right, so now let's talk about a microsite. So this microsite is answering the question of what is OSP? And it was submitted by Yolanda from the Ocado Group. And it's pretty beautiful. It's a top of funnel content piece that educates users on the solution. And OSP partners can use this software to streamline online ordering for their customers. So imagine, fulfillment, logistics, and everything that a grocery company or like a larger company might need in order to get groceries to their customers. So all of the things that us as users and people that buy things online know nothing about what's going on the back end, that is what this is. Now, this experience is really big. It has a lot of great information in it. It has some beautiful, subtle animations, and there's some great videos that are leveraged throughout. It's really, really, really well done. But it is a highly complex product with a very niche audience, very similar to Gordon. So let's dive in. One of the things that I thought right out of the box was this audience needs to know the ROI, right? Because this is a platform or a software that I'm making an assumption here is probably costly, right? They're going to need to know the ROI. And that's something that I think could be easily created with interactive content and sprinkled throughout. There are all these CTAs throughout the experience that encourage users to get in touch to learn more. I would actually replace those with a call to action to a calculator or an assess your need assessment. So should your business invest in our software? And then you would answer questions about your business to identify gaps. And then we would be able to demonstrate the reasons that your business needs this software in order to streamline your production, to get your products out to people quicker, to probably manage your reporting. I can only imagine like how many challenges this software could solve, and an assessment would be a really great place to start. But assessing your need, not necessarily your knowledge. What do you think about that, Laura?
Yeah, I mean, we've already talked about how assessments are a thing. I feel like how many times can I say that? But yeah, I think especially when you're like tackling a complex topic or like a product or a service, it helps you kind of gauge your buyer or audience members' maturity to have something like this and prepare them for like more elevated conversations with you and your brand and everything like that. So I like it.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think, we've done this in the past with interactive content assessments, right? Is like giving users the opportunity to assess their need for having interactive content. Like, do you need to capture higher qualified leads? Yeah, we all do, but are you struggling to capture higher qualified leads? Is your engagement low? Or do you experience low time spent on page? Are you effectively moving users through the buyer's journey? Like, these are all questions that we've asked in assessments, or tell us like the challenges that you have, and then we present the reason that interactive content can help solve that. And I definitely think that that's something that we could do with this audience as well. And then also, when I was going through the experience, there was a lot of really great information throughout, just sprinkled throughout. I would actually condense the key points that show the value of the investment into a simple infographic, something that just kind of, gives users an understanding of what they're going to get, and then pushes them on to that next step. And one of the things that I thought would be really, really cool and valuable is adding in this the option to personalize. So we we here cannot, tell you enough times like how much of an increase you will see in conversions if you personalize your content. And that's going beyond just saying a first name or, dynamically populating something based on like the device that a user is on. We're talking about actually showing content that addresses the user's pain points. And one way to do that is to have an assessment ahead of the experience that asks users to tell you, what are the challenges you're trying to solve? Or what are what's your role? And then dynamically populating content that's only relevant to them. We have several customers who have one product, but that product is for different personas, right? So I think we can even actually agree. So we have an interactive content platform. We are targeting marketers and we are targeting designers, right? So but what a designer wants to see is a lot different than what a marketer wants to see. And so I want to talk to marketers about data. I want to talk to marketers about learnings. I want to talk to marketers about capturing high qualified leads. I want to talk to designers about animations and graphics and making something that's beautiful, that's going to impress their boss and look good in their portfolio. And so two completely different conversations, and I don't want to show them the same exact thing. Because it's if I send the designer information about data, they're probably going to get bored. I mean, they might get bored. They might not, but it's not going to resonate as much as it would with the marketer. And so having this assessment at the front of this experience where you can ask users to tell you about their challenges and then dynamically populate the information about the software that's relevant to only them, I think would be a huge game changer for this experience. And so that's my recommendation on how we start. We start with that simple assessment up front to personalize the experience based on pain points or challenges or gaps in their current product, right? Because there's a very good chance they may be interested in switching, right? So tell us why you're trying to switch and let me show you how we're better. And then in that middle funnel, we would push users to the what is OSP asset to learn more, but dynamically populate content based on those pains. And then after that, we have a call to action to either push them to an ROI calculator. We can actually show them the investment and what they're going to get back, whether that investment is going to equal, quicker processing or, better reporting or, actual cost savings, whatever the case might be. ROI calculators are always really, really high performing and super valuable, especially if you have a complex, expensive product, or that assessment to assess your need. Both really, really good sales enablement material too. So thank you, Yolanda, for sharing this with us. Again, this was a great experience and lots of opportunity within this interactive experience or within this experience. It's already beautiful. It already has great animations. It already has really great video content. And there was more content that I found while I was digging into the site. So I love it. I think that this is really great and could be a pretty impressive piece. To learn more about Ocado Group, go ahead and go to their site, read some of the content that Yolanda and her team are creating. Really great stuff. And then feel free to connect with Yolanda on Twitter. There's one thing that I was thinking when I was creating this is that all of us are marketers, right? And most of us are used to going to conferences. We're not able right now to network and hang out and get to know each other. So this was actually a really fun way for me to connect with marketers that I didn't know. I mean, we're not at a bar, talking about what sessions we're going to attend at the conference tomorrow, but we're still getting to share content, getting to look at each other's work, and I think that this has been really great. So please, feel free to follow Yolanda on Twitter. Like, let's all stay connected while we can before we're all back at conferences together. So the next one is a report. Now, this report's not out yet. It came from one of our customers and it's still in production and it's confidential. So I can't tell you who created the report, but I can tell you that it's going to be really, really good. So just a quick little snapshot. This is, while they're still working out the design and strategy, they're looking to create a report that talks about the data of home insurance, is the impact that COVID has had on home insurance. So super interesting. I want to read it. Cannot wait for it to come out. So for reports, we actually see this quite often. We get a lot of customers that request making their reports more engaging. One thing that would definitely be great, I know I've already shown this example, but it is an actual report. And it's a really great way to take those key data points and get users engaged, add that tweet to share element so people share those data points and those things that they found really valuable, but always having that carrot of download the full report. And then benchmark assessments are also really, really great for reports as well. They can help users benchmark themselves against the data, right? Super valuable, provides a lot of information, gives users a result that is tailored to what they answered, maybe measures their maturity, tells them areas that they need to increase their knowledge, and then goes ahead and asks them to download that full report. So again, like I said, can't tell you who submitted to this one, but I just want to say thank you for sending this to us. I'm so excited to see this report, and I'd love to hop on a call and talk a little bit more about that. So, let us know if that's something that you're interested in. So what do you need to get started with interactive content? I know we dived into a lot. I think we're actually almost at time. So let's talk a little bit about what you need to get started. I said it, start with existing content. Don't start don't start new. If you're new to interactive content, it's a new strategy to learn. Just like when you were starting to learn how to write an effective blog, just like when you were starting to learn how to write a good email. You can't just pop in and write a marketing email the same way you would email your mom. There's things you need to do different, and there's things you need to learn. So start with content that already exists. Let's find ways to repurpose the content that's been super valuable and impactful to your business. Define your goals. What will interactive content help you solve? And you will be happy to know that Laura and I will be back here in 2 weeks to talk about that even more. We're going to talk more about defining your goals and coming up with content strategy with interactive content in it. And use a platform to scale your content production. Lean on an interactive content platform over custom dev if possible. Every idea that I shared with you guys today can be created in our platform, from personalization to the calculators to all of it. And again, it's not a shameless plug. I mean, whatever, it is a shameless plug. Watch more of my webinars. We're creating this series for you guys because we want you to be educated. We want you to know everything that you can about interactive content. So please, share them, watch them, get that knowledge. We're more than happy to share it with you guys. So our next session will be in 2 weeks on October 29th, same time, same place. We're going to talk about how to add interactive content to your existing content strategy. It's a little bit more challenging to ask you guys to share your content strategy with me, but if you want to, do it. I don't necessarily have to promote it in our webinar because I know that, seeing a content strategy is really, really personal. But if you guys want to share your customer journey or share something that you have, I will be more than happy to do exactly like I did with that last customer and not share who you are, the deets, but let's find ways that we can add interactive content to it. I really, really loved getting content that was from, people that I did not really know. So if you want to connect on your content strategy and have me dive into it in the webinar, I'm all for that. So please feel free. And again, this is our beautiful faces, Laura and I. So Laura, I'm sure we got some questions.
Yeah, it looks like we did get a question here, but thank you, Stephanie. I just want to, wrap it all up by saying thank you. That was obviously amazing, as they always are. So I'm going to read the question that we have now. If anyone else has any more questions or comments for Stephanie, now's the time to enter them into the chat, and I will read them as they come in. So the question that we have is from Emily Amos. So hello again, Emily. Her question is, how do you create an assessment? Would we either custom code it or look for some software like what I'm assuming Rock Content offers?
Yeah. So yes, the Ion platform, which is what Rock Content does have assessment capabilities. There's a couple of different platforms out there that you can create assessments in. Obviously, I'm going to tell you that Ion is the best one for you. And the biggest thing is first you have to define, how complex is this assessment going to be? If you follow the recommendation that I gave to you, I said only 7 questions, and I would have the 7 questions have 4 potential outcomes. So, not like the user can fall into 20 different buckets. Like, try and keep it to only 4 in terms of maturity, immature, somewhat mature, and mature. And from there, that's when you can start to determine what kind of product you should use. I'm going to tell you that Ion is probably the best product that you could choose, but yes, there are other options out there. But if you want to talk more about that with me, we can definitely talk about how to create an assessment and dive into that a little bit more. I would not go custom dev, mostly just because, especially with an assessment, because an assessment is a complex thing to build in custom dev. And the updates that you would need to make are going to become more complex and difficult to manage. The scalability of a custom dev interactive assessment is not great. When you use a software or a platform, an interactive content platform, you're going to be able to make updates to it, change the questions if you feel that they're not performing as well. If you identify trends, like most of my users are falling into this one bucket, that means that I need to do something. Maybe something's not right. Those are a lot easier to do with a platform versus doing it with custom code. So just something to think about too.
Amazing. Thank you. We have 2 more questions that just came in. First one is, can you share some good practices about infographics? We used to do them to get backlinks. Is it possible with interactive infographics?
Yeah, so you can get backlinks with an interactive infographic. It's really I love a static infographic too. They're really great on Pinterest, right? So some of the things that, and that's what I think of when I think of backlinks, right? Like I think of a static infographic on like a site like Pinterest, or a site like a content site where someone can click on it and go back to your blog where you have that infographic. You can still do that. So we've had some customers who had some success with creating static infographics to raise their rankings on their site. But we would say to them, let's put like a graphic that's like a teaser graphic of your interactive infographic on those social channels, and then push users to that interactive infographic. And then when they're on that interactive infographic, we can push them to the ultimate goal, which, yes, we want people to get to our site. We want those backlinks, but we also want them to go on to make a purchase. And they usually can't make a purchase from a static infographic, but they can make a purchase from an interactive infographic. Another thing that's important to note is that with an interactive infographic, they're probably going to be on the site longer. And so you're going to have time spent on page increased because they're going to be engaging with stuff. They're going to be clicking on reveal tiles. They're going to be clicking on quiz questions. They're going to be, hopefully reading or clicking on resources, because a really good infographic should always have assets at the bottom. So this one thing that I definitely recommend is always having additional learnings for the user, right? If they click on your interactive infographic, what else can they read? And that's something that's super important, which is also going to increase the rankings of the page.
Awesome. Last question, simple one. Does Ion integrate with WordPress?
Yes, we have an integration with WordPress. And we also create WordPress sites too.
There you go.
Yes.
All right. Cool.
Well,
I don't think we have any other questions.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys join us next week, but I do also want to say, we're always talking about interactive content on our blogs. Our blog is at en.rockcontent.com for English. If you're in Portuguese, we also have I think it's just rockcontent.com, but we'll definitely link you guys to those. But there's tons of content that we create in different languages to educate you further on interactive content. And Laura and I will be here in 2 weeks. And you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm talking about interactive content all the time there. And yeah, I just love these webinars so much. I know. All right. Well, thank you, Laura. Thank you for joining me again.
Yeah, of course. I love it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you and everyone else again in 2 weeks.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Have a good week. Bye.